I ended the last video by saying that salts can be soluble or insoluble in water. Now, when you put the salt in water and it disappears, that means the salt is soluble. When you put the salt in water and then you still see the salt in the water, that means the salt is not soluble. Now, let's see the types of salts that are soluble and then the ones that are insoluble. All sodium, potassium, and ammonium salts are soluble. All sodium, potassium, and ammonium salts are soluble. So whenever you see the cation being sodium, potassium, or ammonium, that means that salt will dissolve in water. Okay, so whenever you see these as a cation of a salt, that means the salt is going to be soluble. When we take nitrates, NO3 minus, any salt with this as its anion is soluble. Okay, so in the first one, any salt with these as the cation are soluble. In the second one, any salt with this as the anion is soluble. All chlorides except silver chloride and lead chloride are soluble. So any salt that has Cl as the anion will be soluble, except silver chloride and lead chloride. So PbCl2, representing lead chloride, is not soluble. Also, silver chloride is not soluble. So all chlorides, with the exception of silver chloride and lead chloride, are not soluble. Next one, all sulfates except barium, lead, and calcium sulfates are soluble. So all sulfates are soluble. Barium sulfate, lead sulfate, and then calcium sulfates are not soluble. All sulfates, SO4 2-. Okay, so any salt with this as the anion is going to be soluble. But when barium, lead, or calcium is the cation, that means that salt is not going to be soluble. Potassium, sodium, and ammonium carbonates are soluble. Okay, potassium, sodium, and ammonium carbonates are soluble. All other carbonates are not soluble. So only sodium, potassium, and ammonium carbonates are going to be soluble. All other carbonates are not going to be soluble. So CO3 2-. Only potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate, or ammonium carbonate combined with this will be soluble. All others will not be soluble. So these are the salts that are going to be soluble in water, with their exceptions, the ones that are not going to be soluble in water.